or just you this evening?
No, with COVID, you know, you can only tie up so many. You can have only so many people tied up in a room at a time, and I mean, you know how it is.
You're really gonna blame COVID on this? I mean, because you are a perfectionist. All right,
It
now
only took me 5 minutes.
All right, fair enough. All right, man, let's jump into this shit. Let's get into this thing. Number one, question one. We got two gatekeepers, and no matter how much I like you, and no matter how much I consider you my personal hero in the haunt community, and I mean that with every fiber of my being, you got two gatekeepers you got to get by. You got two gatekeepers. The rules don't change for anybody, all right? And this isn't Miasma right now. This is Talking Scared, so it's my rules. It's my rules tonight. I'll probably pay for that later on at some point in time in the future, I'm sure. But tonight, I'm good.
I don't take revenge. I don't take revenge.
All right, man. I want to take you back to the very, very beginning of Justin and horror. Before Miasma, before haunt acting, before any of this was ever even a thought. What are some of your very first memories of horror, and what would you say were some of the things that started to push you down this road that led to where we are today?
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting question because it's kind of a lot of things. Like I think back to maybe 3 specific instances. Movie-wise, I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors on TV, and then my mind just kind of turned. But before that, you know, I was a little nervous around it. But like going back even further, forgetting movies, walking up and down like the video aisles, you know, at video stores, there was a horror section, which when I was a kid was the most terrifying aisle you could ever walk through because it had all the amazing artwork. I mean, stuff that sticks with me that I, you know, want to buy in like framed and put on my walls, which I actually recently did buy something. Okay. You know, that stuff like sticks with you forever. And I really think that left a huge imprint. And I became obsessed with, you know, what is that? It was so mysterious and so evil and so dark, and you just wanted to learn more. And I think that's kind of the essence of how almost anybody gets into horror.
I like that you mentioned the video aisles and seeing that stuff, you know, especially at like, I can remember Blockbuster myself, and I was raised in a very hardcore Christian fundamentalist home, so that stuff was always a big no-no. So it was always like the aisle of, almost the aisle of forbidden toys for me. And I used to walk down it, and it freaked me out too. I had the same reaction. I was terrified of those aisles. And for those out there wondering what Blockbuster was, that was an old rental video place from like way back when. But anyways, very cool. Very cool. I like that answer, man. It's a good answer. Now we got one more gatekeeper. One more gatekeeper we got to get through tonight before you're officially allowed in. You say that now, but it's time for you to step into my arena. Welcome to the Battle of the Five. For those that are new, might not be familiar with what exactly is about to happen to poor Justin right here, he is going to be presented with 5 different scenarios, 5 different battles to the death that's going to happen tonight. And Justin is going to be picking our winners. Bane, the breaker of Batman, steps back into our arena. Bane versus Jason. Fight to the death. No machete. No machete. This is a straight fist fight. Who you got, man?
Oof. Ah, man. All right, let's say this is really happening.
Dude, I'd pay 100. I'd pay. I don't even know how much money I would pay to see this fight go down for real.
I would. I'm gonna go Bane because Bane is.
I like it.
He's smarter.
I like it. That's awesome, man. And like I said, tonight I win no matter what because Bane's one of my favorite characters.
But hold on though, like let's get this straight though. He'll just stop Jason for a little while. I mean, you know, it's not someone that actually stops. He'll win the fight, but not the war, I guess would be the best way to put it.
So you think almost similar to what happened in the last movie that Bane was in? You know, he gets the initial victory, but Jason eventually comes back for him.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you mean Bruce Wayne?
Well, yeah, the guy that he's breaking the back of right now in that scene. Yeah, they're all Batman and Bruce Wayne himself, and I do like Batman. I know I give Batman a lot of shit, but I feel like I just constantly shit on Batman. I do like him. He just happens to always be on the losing end of things for the most part. But I'm good with it. I think Bane deserves the title. I'm glad he's got it, and we'll see how long it lasts. So Jason's been dethroned again. And now you've gotten through the gatekeepers, and now it's time to really get into this thing and find out a little bit more about Justin. And thank you for playing our Battle of the Five. I thought I had a challenging one, but you whizzed through those first three. I'm disappointed in myself. I'll have to try harder next time. But anyways, I know
it was great.
I know everybody's here to get to know you a little bit better, so let's start off there. I want to talk about, we talked about your first experiences with horror and the movie aisle and stuff like that, but I want to talk about haunt acting and that first time inside of a haunt, even if it was as a patron. Do you remember the first haunt you went to?
Yeah, it was Mystery Manor in Omaha, Nebraska.
Mystery
Manor?
Okay.
I believe I was third or fourth grade, whatever age you are in third or fourth grade, but my dad took me.
Okay.
And I was, that was when I was becoming obsessed with horror. And I think when you're young, you think that haunted houses are like living in a horror movie, which is kind of a weird thought for like a kid to think. But, I thought that must be like a real live horror movie, which, it's kind of something different. But yeah, it blew me away, just being able to see like horror personified in a certain way, or at least the spooky kind of gothic style horror. And, that was the first haunt I went to, and I was just blown away. I mean, I remember going home and just sitting there, kind of like some of the extreme shows or the immersive horror experiences that really blow you away and send you, in awe. I remember having that feeling as a kid, just recounting the first room and the second room and what happened, and it's kind of a fever dream once you're out of it.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that, man. That's impressive to remember so distinctly. The very first haunt you went to from such a young age, man. That's very cool. It obviously left a very good impression on you. Do you remember, was there a part in it that kind of made your third grade year old self want to go running out of it? Did the creator of Miasma get scared himself in third grade?
I think I was more amazed. I don't know if I was scared.
Of course not.
I'm not saying I don't get scared. There's certainly many things that have made me shiver. Even as an adult. But I remember the time. I think I was just more blown away that something like that existed.
Very cool.
It was more just going, wow. It just being completely impressed by it.
Very cool. So now you do have some experience in traditional haunts acting before we get into the world of extreme, and I promise we will tonight, folks. Hang in there with us. I do want to talk about traditional haunts a little bit, though. You have acted in them. You have worked for them, including some this year, right?
Correct.
Let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about what was going on this year and what you just did.
So this year, actually, Miasmatic Productions, which is the production company behind Miasma, was hired to do some haunt acting, just traditional haunt acting at the Music Box Drive-In of Horrors, which, if you're not from Chicago, the Music Box is somewhat of an institution of film, and they're also coupled with Shudder. So yeah, I've been out there a few nights, doing some traditional haunting and putting some smiles on faces, which I'm not used to doing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But and there's a couple other actors that are associated with us out there. So if you're there and see us, say hi. We might not say hi in a normal voice, but yeah, that's what we've been doing every weekend. So we're there Friday and Saturdays all through October.
Very cool, man. How did you initially get into haunt acting?
I was 16, and I had a friend named Brandon who may actually be on here for all I know, but he's still very much into haunts. And he had told me that I need to come down to meet a guy named Mike Torres, who ran a haunted house called The Edge of Darkness, which was also in Omaha. Spoiler alert, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. And I went down there. He was a special effects artist, and he created this. It was actually very impressive. I don't know if I fully appreciated it until much later, but he built the entire place from scratch, from the ground up. He didn't go to trade shows to buy things except lights and maybe a few props, but he built every scene from the ground up. He did all the makeup himself. It was all prosthetics and makeup, no masks. He refused to use masks, and it was actually, I mean, it was beyond impressive. I can't say how much you see that. I think I've been to a lot of haunts, and certainly if you go to trade shows and buy something, there's no problem with that at all. I'm not suggesting that's a bad thing, but it's really impressive just to see the sheer amount of ingenuity that he put into it, and I mean, everything was built by his hand. In fact, I remember one time someone came in drunk and they kicked a hole in a wall, but it was a very special wall. And, he handled it as professional as you could. But, I mean, he was livid. Just imagine if someone walked into your screen right now and kicked your computer over. It was
I'd
impressive.
murder their ass right here on live.
Right. So, yeah, so it was, it was there, and I was there every single night for 2 years, and they put me in the same scene because I just, frankly, I killed it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's basically a swinging door that was kind of hidden, but I was the only person willing to jump out of this swinging door and run at the audience. It's kind of amazing I never got punched in the face, but yeah, that was where it started. And then, frankly, I feel terrible because there was 2 other haunts I worked at, and I can't remember the names. Admittedly, they were both kind of fly-by-night productions around that time. They didn't put as much, and I mean, I don't mean to insult them, but they didn't put as much love and blood, sweat, and tears as Mike did in his haunts. Okay. So, but I had found them. Yeah, it does. So I have to remember working on those haunts and then kind of going back to Mike because, you just realized a little bit of how much effort he put into it. Very cool. So, yeah, I mean, that was how haunt acting started.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you remember one of your favorite scares you've pulled off inside of a traditional haunt?
Yes, it would be that same jumping out of that trap door that I mentioned. There was a guy who I became very good friends with later, a few years later, but I went to school. I was in high school at the time, and I went to school with him, and he came through, and clearly I'm prosthetic up, and he doesn't know who I am. And I ran straight at him, yelling his name, and he flipped out. And I remember they were pushing him out of the room, and he was yelling, "Who are you? Who are you?" He goes, "Where are you? How do you know my name?" As they were pushing him out the door. But what makes it better is I actually never told him that happened, and I ended up living with him 4 years later. I still never told him.
Hey, you lived with him for 4 years and never fessed up to scare the shit out of the poor guy.
I lived with him 4 years later, and I never told him that.
That's terrible. It's terrible, Justin. I hope he's watching, maybe. Maybe he catches it at some point tonight and finds out that it was you.
I mean, it could be. I'll even give him a hint. We became Facebook friends not too long ago.
Okay. All right. Possibility he might be hanging around somewhere tonight. All right, man. So what has been one of your favorite characters to play inside of a traditional haunt so far?
I mean, I have to go back to Miasma. Anybody that's been through the show knows that I pop up from time to time. That's not necessarily my favorite character play. I actually kind of like being in the backgrounds. I'm doing a lot during that, so it's not really a character. I do like to observe and sometimes just be in the background and see how things unfold. There's a lot of scenes that I think people that have been through the show might not realize that I was right next to them or even doing that to them. And those are the scenes I liked because they weren't focusing on me or an actor. They're generally scenes where the individual was alone and kind of just gathering their thoughts or taking a deep breath to dive in.
Okay. All right. Last traditional haunt question. It's a question we ask almost every guest that's on Talking Scared. A lot of haunts like to make claim that there is actually some real paranormal activity happening inside. So-and-so was murdered in this room. None of our actors dare go in this back hallway. Have you had any experience? Number one, do you even believe in stuff like that? And if you do, have you had any experiences, especially inside of a haunt, that's led to that belief?
There's a few people watching that are like pins and needles right now on this answer. You know, I like the paranormal and I like ghost videos. I am an extreme skeptic.
Okay.
But I would be lying if I didn't get creeped out from time to time. Not in a haunt. I've never been in a haunt or never used a space for miasma where I was nervous.
Okay.
Or you know, frankly, I'm so stressed out while we're doing that. There's no possible way I could feel anything but my own brain explode. But I do have an interesting story that. Okay, so, and I'll just say this. A few years ago, I lived in an apartment, more than a few years ago, like 10 years ago. I lived in an apartment with 2 roommates, and it was a very old, 120-year-old Chicago apartment. And there was this, it was a long, like, the Chicago apartments are generally very long, so instead of wide, they're very long. And there was this room in the front, by these front windows, and I would hang out in the room next to it, which you could see. So basically, you could see the darkness of this room. And whenever you were leaving, I was heading to my bedroom, which was on the other side of the apartment. So I had to walk away from that room. It always felt like someone was watching you. And it was just it made you like shiver. And I didn't think much of it. It's just like, ugh, you know what it feels like when you feel like someone's watching. I think everybody can.
Absolutely.
So eventually, my now wife mentioned she felt the same thing when she was there, and then we're like, okay, that's weird. But of course, we didn't dwell on it. And then when we moved out, our landlord at the time had said, she mentioned to the roommate that she goes, yeah, people always said that front room was haunted. And then without us, I don't know why she said that, but she said it to him, who would never think about it. And it was very bizarre. So I don't know. I'm not saying I believe, but it was very weird that I felt that. And then without prompting, she said that. That's all I'm saying.
I can respect that answer. I respect that answer more than most answers I get, because I'm the exact same way. I am an extreme skeptic. I try to find every reason to explain it away, but I've had one experience in my life that to this point I still can't really explain, so I don't know. And I always like to hear other people's answers, and I respect that answer a lot. Let's change gears a little bit before we go into complete extreme haunt realm. Favorite video game and favorite horror film of all time?
Before we do that, is it okay if I answer Christina Buster's question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Christina. It's been a long time, but hopefully it won't be much longer. Why did you name the website Miasma? Well, we named the show Miasma because it's, two reasons. One is because our show deals with extremely negative topics, and it's an era of negativity and disease and filth, and I always wanted to keep that. I wanted that to be known for anybody coming through. So there's no question when you go and read the definition of what that means, you know what you're getting into. And then, twofold, a really great album that I loved by the Black Dahlia Murder was called Miasma, and it kind of represented the same things that I wanted to do story-wise. If you read the lyrics of the album, what the album's about, a lot of it were things I wanted to cover. So, and I think that stayed true, actually, through our entire run. So, yeah, those are the reasons. Thank you for asking.
Very cool, very cool. And anyone else that has any questions, please feel free to pipe up. We'll catch them. One of us will catch them. And make sure we try and address all of those this evening. So please feel free to chime in and ask whatever questions you want. But you're not escaping the video game question or the horror film question.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to.
No, you're good. I'm just playing, man. Favorite video game, horror film of all time. What you got?
Okay, so like every question ever asked, I'm going to answer it indirectly. Let's see. Favorite horror movie of all time is no question the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay. All right.
That is and always will be one of the most brilliant films ever made. Not just horror movie, film in general. Let's see. But I am going to say recent stuff. I'm going to bring up a recent movie because we all know Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think we all want to learn about new movies to see. Recently, I saw a movie that I know a few people watching know called Possessor, which
Okay.
just came out,
All right.
and it's incredible. It's by Brandon Cronenberg, which is David Cronenberg's son. And he did another movie called Antiviral, which is equally incredible. He continues his father's kind of body horror narratives, and he does them really well. It's not a cheap imitation. It's actually quite incredible. But Possessor just came out a few weeks ago, and it's incredible. It's well worth seeing.
Okay. All right. All
Okay,
right.
video game. I will get to the video game.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good, man.
I'm going to do recent stuff because I play a lot of video games in my life. So one of my all-time favorites is Hotline Miami. Are you familiar with Hotline Miami?
I'm not. I don't think I've even heard of that one.
Well, I got a question for you. Do you like violence?
Come on, Justin. Yes.
Okay. So Hotline Miami is a game that it's done in like a 16-bit style. It's very new.
Okay.
And essentially, you're just a guy, a really unnamed person, and you run into buildings, and your goal is to kill every single person in there as fast as possible. The faster you kill them, the gorier it is. It's
Okay.
a one-hit, one-kill, so when you get shot, you have to start all over. It's completely unforgiving. You can do it. You can kind of do it sneaky, but it doesn't really work that well. Everybody can hear a gunshot, just like in real life. And it has this pulsating synthwave soundtrack that just gets in your head, and it play for every level. It's one song that plays over and over and over and over again, and the levels are so hard you will memorize these songs, and that's part of it, is just going insane from hearing these songs. There's a sequel that's also equally good, but I mean, something we've talked about before is in quarantine. You know, I was able to live out a dream in 2000. I was Omar. It's on everything. It's on PlayStation 4, Steam. You can find it anywhere. The Hotline Miami. And then something we talked about, I was living out a dream of 2000 when I was sitting in a room by myself, which I mean I still do now, but I was playing Age of Empires 2 alone and wondering what it must be like to play with other people. And finally, 20 years later, I convinced at least 2 friends to play it with me, and that's really taken up a lot of time and like bringing a lot of joy and very long nights of screaming at each other and, you know, winning.
The day's coming, man. It's coming. I promise. I promise. Sooner rather than later.
I fear it. I fear it.
You fear it? Did you not see Science Behind the Scare beat my ass not too long ago?
Believe me, man. I'm not good.
And now I will say he had a bullshit strategy. He just went for food and wood. And those that have played Age of Empires, keep up. Those that haven't, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. He just went for food and wood, and then just came at me with just the craziest amount of pikemen I've ever seen in my whole life. And just threw spear after spear after spear. If you're watching, Nick, fuck you for that night. But anyways, no, we will definitely have to have the Age of Empires round at some point in time. It's coming for sure.
Agreed.
We got a couple questions from the audience here real quick, trying to keep up with them. Joshua has asked, type top 5 black metal songs to write to. That's a tough one.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. That's a tough one. Man, I'd say maybe one of your favorites. not top 5, maybe one of your favorites to write to.
No, so, I mean, anybody that knows me or has followed me on any Instagram knows that I love black metal more than pretty much everything. And I will name a more recent album that I think is really great to write to, or it's just kind of mind-alteringly amazing. However, I'm going to pronounce it wrong because, of course, it's in a different language. The band is called Passage Diver, which is PAYSAGED''HIVER, Passage Diver. And the album is called I'm Walled. And it is 2 hours of winter sounds and pure dead sound music, and it'll blow your mind. It's for 2 types of people. It's not for 2 types of people. It's for one type of person. The person that thinks it's amazing, and it's what they were born to listen to, and another person that thinks it's pure torture. And you will know within 3 minutes of that album starting which one you are.
Okay.
So Josh, that's what I am currently writing to.
Very cool. Very cool. And let's see
Oh,
here.
and actually, I'll go back though. Actually, our last show, Desecration of the Seven Witches, was written very close to and very inspired by Caligula by Lingua Ignota, who's not black metal, but she's very associated with noise and metal. So if you've never heard Caligula by Lingua Ignota, it's a brilliant album that everybody should hear.
Very cool. Very cool. Melissa wants to know, what is some of the stuff that inspires you and gives you the brilliant ideas to incorporate in your shows? Now, I know Melissa personally a little bit. She's itching to get into one of your shows. She hasn't been there yet, so I don't know what brilliant ideas it is that you're talking about. I've been inside. It's horror. But what inspires you, man? What helps come up with some of these ideas that we've seen so far?
Oh God. Thank you for being kind and using the word brilliant. But, I've said this before. A lot of it is music. I'll be very inspired by an album or a message in an album, and then I'll somewhat write to that album. In fact, almost every show is, if not named after a song, it's named after an album that I love.
Very cool. All right.
But a lot of stuff is kind of just inspired by what's going on around me, or a thought, or just exploring an idea, a very basic idea, whatever that is. If it's something on the news, I'll write it down. Or Desecration of the Seven Witches was arguably a supernatural show. If anybody's in the comments, I wonder what they'll say. But it is. Justin, yes, Agalok is awesome. And about 3 weeks ago, I saw one of their albums for sale for like $50, and I didn't buy it. And now it goes for like $200 on Discogs, and it kills me. Anyway, I lost my train of thought there.
We were talking about what inspires you.
Oh, all right. So Desecration of the Seven Witches was, it was essentially about immigration, but we used it regarding. We used witches instead, and it was very relevant actually still relevant for our times, but that was essentially what it was about. We just kind of replaced what was in the news with something a bit more horror-oriented, traditionally horror-oriented.
Very cool, very cool. All right, we got one more from the audience right now. I just lost it a second ago there. All right, so Christina wants to know, what has been one of your favorite shows that you've created for Miasma so far, and why?
This question comes up a lot, and I think it's almost unanimous for, most of the cast, definitely the production crew. No One Deserves Happiness, which was our 2017 show. It was a little less extreme. It would still be considered extreme. I think we amped up the extremity in The Great Silence, which is still a great show, but No One Deserves Happiness was a really emotionally charged show about relationships and the destruction of relationships. And the audience, like a lot of shows, the audience makes it, and their reactions were so solemn and so reverent and understanding, and they were just there. And a lot of this stuff was actually, there were moments where, there was a lot of tears in there. Some of it was from the cast too. It was a really emotional show, and it's something that this is not a promise, this is not a thing, but we've always talked about what it would be like to remount that show. I'm not saying we're doing it. I'm just saying what would that look like?
I think we should all find out.
So JT, who went through that show, says, in all caps, a little less extreme. Okay, maybe not a little less extreme.
So I've only been to one so far. I plan on doing hopefully a lot more in the future. I can't imagine any show that Miasma has presented being labeled as a little less extreme. Period. Just based off of what I've seen and the conversations you and I've had, what little bit I've gotten to know you, I think your definition of a little less extreme is probably way different than a lot of people's definition of a little less extreme.
I mean, that's fair.
So let's talk extreme though. All right, we're into it, man. One of the things that I personally love about you so much and what you do, it's not just Miasma. You are a die-hard patron of extreme haunts as well. It's not just the creative aspect of it. So I want to ask, number one, for those out there, that maybe don't know, extreme haunts can take a physical toll on you. They can definitely take an emotional toll on you. Why do this? Why go pursue these things?
Yeah, I can't speak for, of the people watching. Every single one of them has a different reason for doing it. Some people, personally, well, I'll say some people just like the challenge. Some people find a certain, they find it very emotionally rewarding to beat. Some people treat it as a challenge. Everybody's different. I personally, it's kind of two things. Is that it's one, I think that the older you get and the more art and movies and video games and haunts and all that stuff you take in, the harder it is to let go and just be in the moment. And I think that goes with even getting older and having more responsibilities and more things happening in your life. And I've always found personally that the first time that I went through blackout, which would be my first, considered extreme show, that was the first time in a long time that I completely let go, and that was the only place that was the only place my brain was. I wasn't thinking about where I was going to get a drink next. I wasn't thinking what I was going to do tomorrow. The minute I woke up that day, I mean, it would be a lie to say that it was the minute I walked in the door. The minute I woke up that day, knowing what was coming, I was theirs. And that was a great moment to only be there. So it's almost an extreme escapism a little bit. And secondly, I also personally think that there's a lot of beautiful transgressive artwork happening in extreme shows that doesn't happen anywhere else. Some of the most amazing, brilliant scenes that I've ever seen happen in an extreme show and they simply couldn't exist anywhere else. You couldn't film that. You couldn't put that on Broadway. You couldn't put that in a video game. You have to be there. You have to feel it, and you have to be there to appreciate and be in the right, have your heart pounding 100 miles an hour. That's just how it is.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that. We talk about Miasma, and Homecoming was the one that we were able to go to. Everything that you said is right, and you even alluded to it the very first time we spoke about it. I have defense mechanisms that I put up when I go through haunts.
Yes, you do.
It's just my personality. I can't help it. I don't even realize that it's happening sometimes. It's not necessarily intentional. It just happens. And your experience in Miasma Homecoming is still to this date the only haunt that has ripped that away from me. I came in with it, and you all somehow identified it almost immediately and just ripped it away from it. And I thank you for that, because it was such a different experience than what I have felt at other haunts. And that's my personal reason as to why I pursue extreme, why I want to go do more experiences that you put on. But not only you, I mean, there's a lot of other great creators out there as well that put on some amazing experiences. It's that I've not had a haunt that's ever broke me like that before and got me to a point that I could completely let go of everything. And it was empowering. It was a very, very awesome experience. What would you say has been one of your favorite extreme haunts to date that you've went through as a patron?
That I've been through. I'd have to go with. Tell me if I'm cutting out. I think I'm seeing some internet issues happening.
No, you're all good.
There we go. Okay, so I think I would have to go back to that first blackout show, which completely changed my outlook on almost everything. How I approach art, what I wanted to see and follow, and if I had never gone through that show, I would not be sitting here right now, and I wouldn't have honestly about half the friends I do right now. I've met a lot of wonderful people through it, and it made me think completely different. At the time, I was writing a lot of short stories, and in fact, I'd been writing short stories for about 6 years, and it wasn't enough to just write a story. I wanted to see it live, and film wasn't the way to do that. I love film, I always have, but film takes, film takes a lot more than how do I want to say this? It just wasn't the right medium for me. And I totally forgot what I was saying.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We were talking about some of your favorite extreme haunts, and you were talking about how Blackout was the one that
Jesus!
got things kicked off.
So that was a tangent. So yeah, that would go back on a Blackout, but I would say I want to talk about favorite extreme haunt experience because it's actually two-pronged. So I'm gonna say the Gates of Hell, which is where the victim experience takes place, and let me say why. I went through the victim experience the night before, and then the next night I went back to go through the Gates of Hell. And I was warned by a gentleman we both know, Warren, that I should probably take a minute and take a breather because sometimes people will kind of relapse into those feelings if they go in right away. And it hadn't occurred to me, and he was very much right. It was obviously I made it through. It was fine. The Gates of Hell is certainly a great haunt, but not anything compared to the victim experience in Extremity. But it was kind of going through and reliving those moments in the exact same place, but different. That was really impactful, and I don't really know how to explain it.
No, very cool, very cool. I like it, man. That's a good answer. Now I know that there is some extreme creators out there watching, and I know that you still try to go to them, but I'm going to ask you anyways. I'm going to ask you to be transparent, and let's talk about what scares Justin. All right, we mentioned it a little bit, but I want to know, what is your trigger? What is the one thing that you, before you, I know I have mine, the one thing that you kind of cross your fingers and you're like, man, I hope this isn't inside. What is it? What's the one thing you hate more than anything else? The most challenging thing for Justin to get through.
So, spoiler alert, audience. He sent me these questions before, so I had to think about this one. And not that I wrote down answers, except for this one. And, I know what it's like to be put on with, I can already see several extreme creators staring at the camera back at me. So do I give them ammo?
Yes.
Why not? I will say this. I have a slight case of trypophobia. Do you know what that is?
Let's hear it.
It is the fear of closely packed holes. And I was telling another creator today that if he could figure out how to somehow force me into close contact with something with very small holes all close together, that would be very rough to get through. Okay. If you look up trypophobia, there'll be many pictures of what I'm referring to.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're talking about now that you've mentioned the close holes in the pictures. I'm with you on that. That's weird stuff.
Yeah, it's not the expected answer.
No, it's not. It's not. Is that it? Is that the only trigger? Are you hardcore now?
I'm not going to give you everything. Come on. No. Yeah, there's more, but I would say that one is one I've never seen it, and I would love to see it, and now I think I'm definitely going to see it. But
probably
no, not like a strain or Maya, but yeah. If I had a picture, I'd show you. But if I had a picture, I'd throw up.
Very cool. Now, I have to say, talking about that, sometimes I don't think people realize what their trigger is until it happens.
That's very true.
That was my experience at Homecoming. I didn't know what my trigger was until you put me into my trigger. And then I had a moment where I really had to kind of calm down for a second and go, oh, fuck. Okay, this is, all right, yeah, this is what I struggle with, apparently. And it was cool to kind of see that and to learn that. And now that we know what yours is too, hopefully somebody is able to put that together for you. Do you have a haunt that you would say has been the
No,
most...
no, no. That wasn't a request. That was not a request.
So I'm sure somebody will make it happen for you. Anyway, so do you have a haunt that you would say has been the most challenging to get through so far? I mean, I know that you're very good at this stuff. You're obviously an amazing creator, but has there ever been one that you struggled to complete?
Oh yeah, the victim experience by far. I mean, there's no question. It's some people walk through it. Very few people walk through it, but it hit a lot of triggers, and that's no surprise. I know there's a lot of people out there suggesting, or that I haven't been to Crucible, but I know that Crucible has also hit a lot of triggers for people too. So, it's kind of different. Patricia is saying Stag. So, it's different all over. But personally, it was the victim experience that was a huge challenge, and a huge challenge that I plan to undertake again.
Very cool. Very cool. I know the exact thing in Stag that Trish is talking about, and it was pretty fucked up. It was a fucked up room. But anyways, it is time to talk Miasma. We finally came to that point. Let's go back to the very beginning of this beast. How did Miasma even come into being?
So let's see, 2013. I believe 2013. Basically, I had heard about this thing. I didn't know if it was a haunted house. I didn't know what it was, especially then when, there's a lot of people covering these type of things now, but then it was something of a extreme mystery. Was a show called Blackout that I just had no idea what it was. I was hearing rumblings from New York that it was something you had to see, and just like today, rumors of what it is and what it aren't kind of swirl around. And so basically they came to Chicago, and like I mentioned earlier, it just really, like a lot of actual creators that have been doing shows for a long time now, they've inspired a lot of people. They just approached it in such a unique way, in a million ways, not just going alone and really, Victoria. So if you look in the comments, no, I'm not going to be able to concentrate. So, yeah, it was that. I gotta center myself.
I can't even look down right now. It's really that is your trigger. So, that is it. That is it. Yeah, Lauren, I know you're watching. You notes right now. Notes.
So anyway, yeah, it was just the way they approached the live experience. It was mind-blowing, and it left a huge mark on me. And just like a lot of other creators out there that are still creating different shows. So it allowed me to I thought about their approach, and it gave me the ability to think about how to bring those stories I mentioned earlier to life, and just kind of use those tools and that completely different approach to the live experience to bring those stories to life. And I finally found what I needed. Like, it wasn't film, it wasn't writing, it was kind of it was that trigger to say, what if we brought these stories off the page, and which sounds super cheesy, but what if we brought these stories off the page and then put people through about 100 miles an hour. And then we tried it. And it worked. It seemed that people enjoyed it, and it was a huge satisfaction narratively. So we gave it another shot, and then it just kind of flowed from there. And every time you do one show, just like any creator could tell you, halfway through that show, you're thinking about what to do in the next show. It's inspiring upon itself. So
very cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Talk about the first show a little bit. You kind of mentioned it. How did the first show go? Was there any moments of it where you went, oh shit, what have we gotten ourselves into? If you can, I know that Miasma is very, very secretive, and I don't want to let anything out of the bag that doesn't need to be let out of the bag, but can you talk a little bit about what kind of the first show was about a little bit, and down that path some? And if I'm asking too much, I apologize. You can tell me to shut up.
No, I mean, there's actually only, I would think, one scene that we would ever repeat from that show. We generally don't repeat scenes. In fact, there's only one show we've ever repeated a scene, which was Homecoming. But Yeah, it's very hard to explain because again, we were all kind of just figuring out. We had haunt experience. We didn't necessarily have a lot of theater experience, and we kind of learned guerrilla theater as it was happening. It was a very loose story about a character named Father that was somewhat in control of what was happening in this space, and the guests worked their way through from somewhat of an abduction. They walked into what was an art show that actually didn't turn out to be an art show at all. Shocking. And from there, they journeyed to meet Father and what he had done, and essentially escape it. So it was very different from what we do now. It was much more haunted housey. Okay. At the time, it seemed opposite of a haunted house, but looking back, it was definitely more spooky than what we were to become. But it was interesting, and we had a lot of incredible reactions. We did things in that show that nobody that had gone through it knew what they were coming to, and we had a lot of smiles and a lot of very confused people. It was really interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. What goes into the making? You don't have to go into great detail with it, obviously, but just kind of maybe a little brief overview. What goes into from the original concept idea to it's time to put the show on tonight? What goes into making a Miasma production come to life, and about how often do you try and do a show?
So I'll answer the easy one. Well, neither of those are easy. How often do we try to do a show? That's a hard one. I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to come back to it.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to answer it. So COVID really messed a lot of things up for a lot of people. Certainly, for us, we can't do shows. There's a lot of people that have suffered way more than that, and I'm not dismissing that. So, but we definitely had big plans. I'm going to answer this indirectly too. We had a lot of big plans for 2020. They were scrapped immediately. We had done 2 shows in 2019. We always wanted to do more shows. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. I can respect it. I'm good.
And then...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I forgot the question.
What goes into the making of a Miasma production? Kind of. I know you can't go into great detail, and going into great detail, we'd probably be here till sometime tomorrow. But kind of a brief overview from original concept to it's time to do this thing tonight. What is a little bit, just a small taste of that process?
I wish I could bring on the 2 other producers of Miasma, as I don't do this alone. I wish I could bring them on to answer that question, because whatever I'm going to say, they're going to laugh at. It's a lot of banging my head against the wall, writing a sentence, scratching it out, writing a sentence, scratching it out, throwing out an original idea, bringing it back, and rushing it, and then ripping it apart, and then taking your time. It's an infuriating experience of getting your thoughts on page and then wiping away, knowing that you can never do everything you want to do, and getting that message just right. And that's just the writing part. Like, forget trying to find a space, getting insurance, getting the right people. Generally, we've had 90% of the same cast since day one, so it's not that hard. We do bring on people that we trust, and then of course there's the physical stuff, which has kind of been talked about ad nauseum. But yeah, we have to come up with new scenes and then test them constantly until we feel like we understand any way something could possibly go wrong, and make sure it's as safe as it possibly can be. And then you get to show day and you essentially try it live. I shouldn't say that. I should say that, we rehearse and put everything together, and, eventually it comes together. But really the only way it comes together is, when we have that first guest come through, that I've done the show several times, but I know it's coming, and it really comes together with that first guest that comes through, and then we see how people are really reacting to it.
Very cool. Very cool. So before we get into closing things out here in a little bit, I do want to talk about Homecoming specifically as much as we possibly can. Number one winner of the 2019 Immersive Haunt of the Year, for us at least. Absolutely, for me personally, I can't speak for Trish. The best haunt I have still to this date been to. I include traditional, I include immersive, I include everything I've been to, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible from start to finish. The anticipation beforehand, the initial scene, just the initial conversation with you out there at that picnic table. That in and of itself didn't go the way I thought it was going to go at all. I was super wrong on what you asked me to guess, and just like immediately, I felt stupid almost immediately, which I'm not used to. I don't like that feeling. I felt completely out of control immediately. I felt like I didn't, even though we had talked very, very briefly beforehand, I didn't feel like I had any fucking clue who you were at that point in time. And just an absolute amazing experience. But the one thing I really want to talk about, as much as you're able to, Jay. How did you come up with Jay? Jay was a huge part of Homecoming. Are you able to elaborate a little bit on the character of Jay and kind of his role in Homecoming?
Yeah, I mean, Jay has been a character that's shown up 2 times, I believe, at this point. And actually, no, 3. Essentially, I mean, I'll be honest, Jay was just the way I responded to emails. Instead of saying my real name, I would use Jay. And then it kind of, I started talking in a specific tone to people, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. And at this point, Jay is essentially, the representation of an unhinged id. It's someone that can do some very nasty things and can do some, I shouldn't say kind things, but okay things. And Jay will do as Jay does, and he does have emotions, but that doesn't necessarily mean he feels bad. Jay will walk you through the things he's seen and the things he's done, but it doesn't always mean he regrets them.
You know what's interesting about that, and thinking back to the experience, I don't think, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the intention was for us to ever sympathize with Jay, but I did at times. Just because, yeah, he had done some horrible things, but there were also this elements of this human that was struggling with what he had done. And that emotion, at least for me, kind of got pushed onto me a little bit. And in that feeling, and that's one of the reasons that he is by far one of my favorite characters I've ever had the opportunity to interact with. And that's why I'm always trying to find out more info on him, and I'm always trying to pry a little more information out of him on you. But Homecoming was absolutely a thrilling experience. And you said it kind of weirdly there for a second, but you said sometimes it puts a smile on someone's face. There was a scene, and I'm not going to get into details of it, but you're going to know what I'm talking about, where you were in the background a little bit, but you were definitely doing something not very nice to me at that moment in time. It was right after the chair, and you had me smiling ear to ear while you were doing something that shouldn't make somebody smile ear to ear. So I do agree with that, and I second that yes, is it terrifying? Sure. Is it challenging? Absolutely. Is it going to put a smile on your face at times? If you're able to let go of your defensive mechanisms and have fun, absolutely it will. And that's one of the many, many reasons that we chose it for Immersive Haunt of the Year. That along with many, many things, man. But before we get into the closing and the knighting and all that good stuff, I got one more question for you, man. What's the future? What's the future of Miasma? And what's the future of Justin Brink right now?
I want to talk about the future of Miasma, but I want to reference some people watching right now. I can see what you're doing, and some of you are doing it very well. Some of you are completely wrong. I wish I could help you. You might want to outsource.
Don't outsource.
I really want you to find. I want you to find it. I know some of you are finding it, but you're not putting it together. You might have to rewind the video to see it again. I wish you luck. Why do I wish you luck? Because we, as mentioned, COVID messed a lot of plans up this year. What will only be described as brilliant shows won't be happening. That was a joke, just in case anybody doesn't know me. They want the live shows. They are going to happen eventually, but right now we decided to move in a different direction, and it took a while to look at the landscape and see what was out there, and move in a different direction, and it took a while to look at the landscape and see what was out there and find the right story. And then we did find it, and we want to have you experience it. So we will be doing the next Miasma experience, which will be launching. I should say again, COVID has messed a few things up, so we have been delayed, but I don't want to delay the announcement. It should be launching next month, an experience called Dreams Don't Come True for People Like Us. And this will be a remote experience. It will be limited, but we will be able to get many, many more people in than we had previously. For those of you warriors out there looking for an answer, just keep watching. For those of you that figured it out, you'll have an answer in roughly 2 to 3 days.
Very cool.
But yeah, sign up on our website if you're not signed up already, make sure you sign up to get an announcement when it comes out. You want to be in that first run. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and then you will see when it goes live, but especially those emails, because those people are going to get it first. Keep an eye out. This is an experience that I think it's something you haven't done before. And I think it's very unique for this landscape that we're in right now. So that is the future of Miasma.
Very cool.
Once we can actually be in the same room, I should say that there are there's obviously shows operating right now, and that's great. If they can figure out how to operate around the COVID restrictions to keep people safe, that's awesome. Bravo to you. The reason we did not do a live show is because I should say an in-person show. Is because the more we thought about it, the more it just wasn't Miasma to us. You've been through it, and you need to feel the sweat on some of our cheeks, and we need to feel it on yours, and to really understand that's our show, and that's what we are. So we will be back to that, and in the future we have some really amazing shows with incredible titles that I wish I could say, but for right now, we're really proud of Dreams Don't Come True for People Like Us, and we can't wait to unleash it on the world next month.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, I do apologize. I know my video is frozen there. I'm still here. Just regretfully, my phone's fucking died. So anyways, you just deal with that image that you see right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull out. Now, you can't see it, daggone it, because of the dead phone. I do apologize, but Justin can see it, and I know he can still hear me. And right now, guys, for those out there that are watching, actually, let me see if I can't really fix that right now. But for those out there watching right now, the toilet brush, it's out. It's out, I promise. Justin's staring at it right now. He's feeling awkward because he's by himself now, and there's no other picture on the other side, but he'll be okay.
I can see him.
He'll get over it. Justin, this is long overdue. On many platforms, man. When we started the Nights of the Cleaners of Shit and we started scrubbing people's faces with this dirty-ass toilet brush on Facebook Live, I can't think of somebody that better represents the haunt community and better represents what what the horror community should stand for, because it's not just putting on great shows. That's one thing. It's not just having a great idea and finding the right building and the right people. It's who you are as a human being. It's the influence that you have in the immersive community. It's the influence you have in the haunt community and what you do with that power that you do have. And you, my friend, are an absolute shining example as to how people should behave and how they should be. I have talked to you about countless things. You have given me more time and attention than you ever needed to. And I really, really, really appreciate that, more than you can ever imagine. Now, I know people can't see it. Trisha's trying to fix it, but it's dead as a door now. Yeah, it's dead as a door now.
So you can't do that.
So anyways, I'm going to move on with it right now. Here it is. Justin, I'm about to knight you. Are you ready for this? Do you want to become a knight of the Cleaners of Ship?
I've been waiting for a very long time for this, so yes.
Awesome. Justin, here it is, man. Folks at home, trust me, it's happening right now. We'll figure it out. But here we go. Officially, Justin, you are not only a knight of the Cleaners of Ship, man. You could be like a high-ranking official, possibly second, maybe even third in command of the Knights of the Cleaners of Ship, man. I thank you.
Wait. Third in command. Hold on. Let's back up. No, I'm kidding.
I can't tell you who number 2 is. I can't tell you. But anyways, man, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. I apologize, my phone died right there at the end, guys. Deal with it. I don't fucking know what to tell you. It is what it is. Justin actually probably cut it somehow. He's probably fucking around with my house or something right now, knowing him. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on and being on the show. And as we do with every single freshly knighted person, Justin, it creeps me out a little bit to say this, but I am going to turn my show over to you. I'm going to let you get all your last-minute shameless plugs, shout-outs, thank yous, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, man. The show's yours. Take it home, man.
No, Jesus. First I want to bring up the new Miasma show. Make sure you go to our website and just look up Miasma Chicago. You'll find it. Go and sign up for the invite to be first in line. There's a lot of I wish I could thank everyone, but the entire cast and crew that helped with this, awesome. To the entire extreme haunt community out there, we've been talking a lot lately and a lot more, and it's been wonderful. So shout out to Blackheart Collection and Crucible and I'm sorry if I just said. Victim Experience, all those shows, Blackout, they're all doing amazing, interesting things. If I missed someone, certainly it wasn't on purpose. I apologize. But there's a lot of stuff out there, and take a look. A lot of conversations happening, and it's kind of great right now. I just want to shout out to everybody working on a show, even if you aren't extreme. You know what? If you're just starting a show, it's hard. Don't give up. You wouldn't believe the challenges that we've had, and it's the one thing we need is more creators in any medium, because everybody out there, and I'm sorry if this is a tangent, but everybody out there, we started very small, and we still are very small. That's actually something that I think is mistaken often, but we started with an idea, and a very simple idea, and a few lengths of rope and a couple lights. And we built it from there. And all you need is just a narrative around the things you have, and you can build from there. So never stop creating, and don't let COVID hold you back. It's sometimes hard to be creative right now when you're stuck inside or you're not seeing the type of stimulus that you usually do. But keep creating, keep doing amazing things, and I'm very excited to see you.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Justin, I can't thank you enough. I genuinely can't for not only coming on and being on the show tonight, but just being who you are. You are absolutely a shining example of what the haunt community should strive to be, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. And I mean it with every fiber of my being, man. It's bucket list. It's bucket list, man. Is to one day be able to be on the other side with you, and watch one of those shows go down, man. That would be beyond cool, But anyways, that's enough of that. It's enough of talking scared. I think that's everything, right?
I think we did it.
I think we did it. I think we did it too. So everybody out there watching, man, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you go over to Miasma's Facebook page. Give them a like. Follow them if you haven't already. Check out their website. Also, go check out a Facebook group, Extreme Haunts. If you're not already a part of it, you should be. You should be, because there's a lot of talk like this, a lot of different stuff going on over there to kind of keep up to date with what's going on in the extreme world. So everybody out there watching, we thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Justin, again, man, thank you. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do. And that's it. That's it, man. We're going to close this thing out. We'll be back on next Monday. Justin, thank you. And we'll talk to you soon, man.